If the celery isn't pungent, did you get the...
Welcome to MUKBANIME, the mukbang with an informal review of an anime or manga I like. Today's manga is Blue Period by Tsubasa Yamaguchi, and today's meal is a combination of breakfast food, scrambled eggs, bacon, shredded hash browns, and waffles covered in whipped cream, syrup, bananas, Oreos, and peanut butter. And, I do have to apologize for the wobbly camera. I did not expect the camera to be swinging out of control. Blue Period is a coming-of-age story about a smart student named Yamaguchi who spends his time staying out late with his friends instead of focusing on his future. One day, though, he sees a classmate's painting and is inspired to pursue art suddenly. With so little time left in school, he attempts to get accepted into Tokyo University of Arts, which has a famously low acceptance rate. So for some background, the author, Tsubasa Yamaguchi, is actually a graduate of Tokyo University of Arts. I find that fact super interesting as I wonder how much of her personal experience is put into this book, considering how personal and in-depth it can get. Blue Period is one of my favorite manga of all time. I truly believe it is a manga made for me. And I say this because, for some background, I have some experience with art school. More specifically, before I pursued writing for film and television and animation, I actually was studying to be an illustrator or a fine artist of some sort. I was put into art academy, after school art academy. For those of you who are familiar with the term hagwon in Korean, it's like a cram school. And every day after school, I'd be sent to the art cram school, and would practice painting, watercolor, oil painting, sketches, contour drawings, gesture drawings, charcoal. Like, I would learn everything in order to fine-tune my skills. Granted, this really made everyone, including my mother, mad when I suddenly decided I didn't want to draw anymore and pursue film, which I had little to zero experience in, and I just went for it because I just like movies. I find this story so relatable in that this character is suddenly put into art classes and throwing himself into art cram school, and is also decide this on a whim and is studying as fast as he can in near impossible odds. Now, I will say, I don't think this story is for everyone. I do hear a lot of people find it too much of a slow burn, or it's a little over informative. And I do agree at times that it does go a little too in depth into specifics of painting techniques or how people perceive certain artists. And although some of you may find that interesting, some people who truly don't care about art may not really be into it. But either way, I think it's really commendable for Yamaguchi-san to be able to talk about it and express it in a way that is open and informative to as many people as possible. There is also a problem that I've heard from other people that they've run into, is that there are sudden time shifts. Time moves super fast or super slow. It is very random. Suddenly it'd be like, okay, this assignment is due like 4 months from now, and it'll already be 4 months. Or it's like, oh, this assignment is due tomorrow, and it's taking it becomes the longest day possible. Personally, for me, that stuff doesn't bother me at all. For me, whenever stories move in time, I think there must be a reason for this. This scene must supersede whatever is in between. I personally don't need to see every waking moment of a student's life in school, because I've already lived that. Maybe you've already lived that, or maybe you are living that right now. So, but that's just me. What I love about this series is I find the journey so interesting. I love coming of age stories, but I didn't expect one that was so I wasn't expecting one that was so specific and relatable, at least for me. I see Yaguchi's growth of like, I don't get why this artist is good, and him coming to understand what is acceptable or great about an artist's work and then applying to his own, or figuring out what's important to him to make as his next subject to write. There are other characters who are dealing with art in their own way. Art with, some characters are dealing, using art to deal with their gender identity. Some people are using art to just as a means to get ahead or express themselves. Some people do art and are talented at it, but don't care about it at all. Some people are super passionate about art, but realize that they're not good at it, and they just spend their time analyzing it instead. And it's really interesting to see all these different perspectives of artists. Because art is so non-linear, it's so there's no direct path in order to become the best artist or the next step or move ahead or get a job or whatever. Everyone has their own path, and the same can be applicable to any other career or any other job. But specifically for art, because it's so broad, there are different focuses of it. How many times have I gone back home and relatives or people who just don't understand what I'm doing, they're like, oh yeah, you wrote this like short film for school, that means you can direct my music video, right? Oh, you're good at drawing, that means you can graphic design this logo for my local church, right? Like, and it doesn't work that way. And it's nice to see something that is so specific about a craft that can go anywhere. A big thing that the characters run into is what is their focus going to be. But yeah, it's tough. I'm sorry to go into such artsy-fartsy kind of stuff in terms of description, but it really does hit me home in my soul. I oftentimes, when I'm looking at story, manga, animation, movies, or whatever the medium, I really try to, the first thing I think about is, can I see this person's identity? Can I see who they are in it? Right? And that is the number one biggest, most important thing for me. And I find that every time I'm reading this, I get it. I feel that that the author has experienced these things, or at least knows people who have experienced these things. There are so many characters that are relatable. If you are a creative, if you're an artist, you will find someone in this series who you relate to. You will find multiple people in this series you will relate to. There's a character who is like, I don't care about learning anatomy, I just want to make manga, right? And I'm like, great, I've been there. I totally get that. And then there's another character who's like, who is told, you're really observant. You really have, you always have something intelligent or nice to say or great to say about something that you are analyzing, but you may not necessarily be getting the compliments on your work. I can relate to that. I can relate to the main character at one point being like, I really don't know how to express myself for this excitement, so I just built a bunch of Lego. And I'm like, holy shit, this manga is incredible. I love it. I truly it means so much to me. I am enjoying every step of the journey. I know there is an anime on Netflix, and I've only watched the first episode. I can't say if it will hit me or anyone else the same. But I think this is just such a wonderful piece of work, especially for the author's second work. I believe her first work was a adaptation of a Makoto Shinkai book. I could be wrong about that, but this is her first. I would consider this her first big work, and it's so interesting to show what she likes to focus on in terms of the art perspective, the art world. There's also something that's nice that she also does is she incorporates so much work from other artists. She borrows like paintings from from current students of the TUA, the Tokyo University of Arts. And then always in the end, she features them like, hey, I use this person's painting because they're focusing on oil painting, and this character studying oil painting. Like, oh, I focused on this as a museum piece because I really thought it like shows what the Yatora is trying to find and learn for his next piece. And it's pretty cool. There was the most recent volume I read, volume 11, featured like, oh yeah, thank you so much for my friend for making up this Super Sentai Tokusatsu character, this Kamen Rider character spoof, and I featured it in my series, as like something that some of my characters are into. I'm like, that's so funny, and it's cool to see a huge collaborative work embodying so many other works and celebrating what's so good about art. There's so many different styles, there's so many different perspectives, there's so many different people and reasons as to why they're creating. Okay, bottom line, if you enjoy slice of life stories, if you enjoy characters going through life and dealing with depression, their own struggles, their personal and most inner demons, and sometimes not finding the solution that they're looking for, sometimes finding admittance in defeat and moving on, or persevering through their struggles and figuring out a way to compensate for what they're lacking. This is for you. This is still a very good series, whether you know art or not, whether you are an artist or not. There are so many times when I've read this and I was rooting for a character and I ended up being completely devastated from what they ended up doing or what their outcome was, or where they ended up, but every time we revisit them again, it's so nice to see them and what they're up to and what their goals are and how life has changed. And much like reality, sometimes life moves in ways that you don't expect, and it's frustrating, and it's okay to be frustrated. You're allowed to be mad and cry and be sad about it. That is something that this book tackles, that this whole series tackles, and it's great. Man, I could really, really, really keep talking about this forever. I truly, truly could. But it seems like I'm pretty much done with my meal. Again, this is in one of my top 5 favorite manga of all time. And I just hope you enjoy it too. And I'm sorry this is over. Bye.